Hey there, and welcome to this course on Sor's B Minor Etude. This is such a beautiful piece. Why is it such a beautiful piece? The melody is just haunting. It just floats above everything else. And also the chords weave one to the next really well together. And it can come out absolutely magical. But there's a trap as well. It can also come out really pedantic and kind of childish if we don't do it right. And so we need to go into this piece with a plan to have it an overall concept of what we're going to do with the piece, and then also what we're not going to do with the piece, the way that a beginner would play it. We're not going to do that. So we'll talk about what that is and how not to play it, and then also what we're going to want out of it, and then how to go about practicing to get that. So that's what we're going to do throughout this entire course, but also in this video right here. So we're also just going to take a look and see what exactly we're getting into here. So to start off with, let's take a look at the full score. So here we are. We have the full piece of music right here. I know it's really small. You probably can't see it very well, but there are a couple of big landmarks to notice. The first is this one right here. There's a double bar. So we're just looking at navigation things and section endings here. So we have a double bar, and then we go through. Is there anything else like this? Well, not until we get to a repeat sign, which is also right here. So then we have this big section, this first A section right here, and then we have, that just plays once, and then we have this big B section, which is also includes this over here, and that goes twice. So then the form is ABB. ABB is the entire form. This is what we're doing with the music. We play through the A section, then we play through the B section twice. So the next thing we can look at is how this is laid out. And we'll talk more about this, but just as a brief thing, there are, and this is just getting really into the nitty gritty here. Well, we're in 3/4 as well. So it's in 3/4, we'll just say that. So let's talk about this stem direction, because it's really the crux of the issue. And this is what we're getting into with how to play it and how not to play it. So if we look at it, then we have notes going constantly. There's always a note on every single eighth note of the entire piece, except for at some major stopping points, phrase endings. But most of the time there are, if we look at 3/4 time, we look at, that means there's 6/8 notes. There are 6/8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in each measure. Well, there's also, and this is the thing, there are these notes pointing up, and there are half notes and quarter notes and eighth notes, right? The main ones to pay attention to with melody are the ones that are pointing up and are not eighth notes. So we have the stems up, we have a half note that gets 2 beats, and then here's the third beat right there. So then our melody is one thing, and then there's all this accompaniment stuff. This is all accompaniment, and that's accompaniment. And then there are 2 melody notes, 4 accompanimental notes in each one. We'll talk more about it because it's getting a little bit deep for the getting started. But know that there are 2 things going on here. And that's the main thing to know, is that there's a melody and then there's the accompanimental stuff. And the beginner guitarist way of playing this is every single note, and you just plow right through it. But that's not the piece. The piece is good because it's just melody. Melody for days is the goal here. So we want our melody to, we want this thing to last forever and keep going as long as possible. And we'll talk deeply about this. But that's at the crux of the issue. And so we'll be practicing the melody all by itself. The fingerings don't matter, the right hand, left hand, nothing matters. What matters is wrapping your head around the melody, how it connects, how to make it keep going as long as possible and not come to any stopping places except for at the main stopping point. So it doesn't become these little bitty melodies, but instead this big, long, soaring melody. That's the goal of the piece. And that's the goal of our practice in it. And so when we're practicing this, then we might just be practicing a single note line, which seems like that would be just, like level 1 stuff, but it's not. This is actually the highest level practice you could do, because it's getting right to the crux of the matter. It's eliminating all the distraction of the all the bass notes and the accompanimental notes, and just going for the melody and making that as beautiful and singing and continuous as we possibly can. Once we do that, then we can put in the chords, we can put and make them connect, and use the melody as the main driver of the entire piece and of our practice and everything else. If not, if we just plow right through it, then we're going to think we're done as soon as we learn the notes. The notes are not hard to learn on this piece. There's a lot of repeated material with slight variation, so there might be a little bit of confusion as like, okay, which section am I on? Is this the one that like veers over this way a little bit or that? But it's not, but as pieces go, it's not that hard as far as memorizing the notes and figuring out what the notes are, which makes it's another reason this piece is so good, is because it won't take you a million years to learn the notes, and then you'll just be able to get right down to making beautiful music. So it's got it all in that way. So this is what we're doing. We're working on melody, and then we're also going to work on chords. So then instead of thinking a string of notes this way, this is what we play, but in our minds, we can think chord. We start off with a chord, and then we go to the same chord, and then we're going to go over here and slightly turn it up. And what is this chord? It's an F sharp 7. We'll look at what are the chords, and then so that you can practice just in this way. Just chunks like that. Take all of the gobbledygook right hand arpeggio work out of there and just play the chords, and that's how to memorize it most quickly, because then you can take a group of 4 or 8 chords and just practice it and then repeat it, and it only took 2 seconds to do that instead of I could have already played it 3 times by now, right? Those chords, yeah, I could, by playing those 4 chords with all the notes, it takes many times longer than just or whatever the chord was. There it is. So how you practice is going to determine the final outcome of how beautiful the piece is, and it will also determine how fast you can memorize, which you should memorize this piece. Don't just play by the music. Seek to memorize it right from the very beginning. So how fast you can memorize it, and also the final result is all a matter of how you practice it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this piece. It's a beautiful piece. I'm super excited to be working on it with you. And without further ado, let's jump right in there. See you in the next video.